Hello and welcome to the Fit Dads podcast. My name's Ryan Dutton. I'm joined by Brad Thompson, and today we are going to talk all things fitness racing. Before we do, guys, if you are enjoying the podcast, we would love for you to subscribe. You'll get a new episode every Friday, and join us for the journey. Brad, we're going to chew the fat on all things fitness racing today. What is it? Where did it come from? We'll go over what the hell a Hyrox is. Who are the people that we think should be giving this a go, along with maybe those who it won't be great for? What is your experience, I guess, with fitness racing? Have you ever tried anything of that nature?
Genuinely, never. Like all my life, I've never tried any sort of fitness racing. I've been a part of gyms in the past who've sort of done things like Tough Mudders and that sort of stuff, where they're like community races. But me personally, I've never actually taken part in one. Obviously, closest thing I came were probably CrossFit, but never any sort of competition. It was all in-house.
Yep.
But I know you're very engrossed in this right now, mate, aren't you?
I've delved straight in head first, as I always do with things, and I've become so obsessed with it. Even before we started this podcast episode, I was saying, I feel like this is all I talk about. So I feel like I need some other topic of conversation. But I have my own personal fitness race this week on Friday, in 3 days' time, which is Hyrox Birmingham. We're going to obviously go into what Hyrox is, all the ins and outs of it. But should we get started with like where fitness racing started, like the origins of it? Do you know where it started?
No, I think from a quick Google search, I think I've read something about Germany, but that's about as far as I know. Yes,
Hyrox started in Germany. Okay. I think it was started in 2017. It was labelled as like the fastest growing fitness race. But actually, fitness racing itself has been around for many, many years, way before Hyrox. It actually started with like what we call OCR racing, which is
obstacle course.
Yeah, obstacle course racing, which is essentially a fitness race. Is like a series of exercises where people compete to see who can finish in the fastest time. They usually combine a series of athletic abilities from cardiovascular fitness, muscular strength and endurance. Some may include some more technical things like balance, coordination. Fitness racing as we know it today originated, as I said, from obstacle course racing or OCR racing, which actually does still exist today. You can still do things like Tough Mudders and Spartan races. There are races that go over various terrains, most of which leave you covered head to toe in mud. There's countless obstacles along the way which you have to navigate. At OCR races, there's usually the competitive aspect. So right at the start of the race, you'll get all the athletes going out first, the people who are trying to compete and get really good times. And then it opens up to like the general population and people who just want to complete it to say they're doing like a Tough Mudder. I did a Tough Mudder many, many years ago with clients from R5. And number one, I found it was a really cool bonding experience. I absolutely loved getting people together, and clients that actually never met each other before were spurring each other on. I remember walking round to my side one time, and there was quite a dainty young woman pushing the arse of like a bloke as he got over this like big wooden board. I'm thinking this is just very peculiar. But they are a great bonding experience, fitness race, especially with the Tough Mudder stuff where you kind of just getting stuck in, everyone's caked in mud. More recently though, this has opened up to like more indoor events, shall we say, where there's less mud and a lot more sweat, blood, sweat and tears. Some of which, the more recent ones and more popular ones are things like Hyrox. There's also one called Decafit. Have you heard of Decafit?
Yep.
I'm not sure where that originated from. I don't think it's again UK.
It might be the States. I think.
Yeah. But they do some events over here. I've seen a few people I follow online doing those. But Hyrox is like, it's kind of the cream of the crop at the moment, isn't it? It's the one that everyone seems to be doing. They are particularly difficult to get on. And it's said to be one of the fastest growing sports in the world, Hyrox. The event of Hyrox itself is, I think it's a fantastic, not only a fantastic model, but a fantastic business model. Because wherever you do a Hyrox race, anywhere in the world, it's exactly the same format everywhere. They've not changed it since they started back in 2017. It's an 8-kilometre run, and then in between every kilometre you do a series of exercises, which, if I remember right, I'll have to remember right for this weekend, won't I?
Don't want to take a wrong turn, do you?
I know, yeah. I might write it on my arm before I go. I actually thought about that. So it is a ski erg, a sled push, a sled pull, burpee broad jumps, there is a farmer's carry, there is a row, there is a walking lunge, and you finish with wall balls. That's your 8 exercises.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous. I mean, some of them aren't too bad. Like there's always going to be one in there that you can't find too challenging. There's going to be ones that you find horrendous. I think the burpees is one for most people where they get to like, you got to do 100 meters of burpee broad jumps, or is it 80? Might be 80 meters, and it just seems to go on forever. Like it's just never ending, and people are broken on that exercise, which is about actually the midway point. So, but I think it's fascinating. Like wherever you go in the world, you can do this one race is exactly the same. That isn't always the case with a lot of like the OCR races. Like I know I did 2 or 3 Tough Mudders back in the day, and every one was slightly different in terms of the order, in terms of what obstacles they had. This is pretty much again the same format wherever you go. But yeah, I think I've engrossed myself in it this year. I've jumped headfirst into it, mainly because I realised this year, I can actually run still. My knees aren't too bad. Dive straight in, got a coach, Mick, and honestly, mate, I've absolutely loved it. It's given me a real purpose. It's given me a bit of a flame back in my training, something that was lost for quite a few years, and I just can't ever see myself not doing these things now. I've absolutely loved the training so much. It's not the event itself so much, it's what it's brought to my own training. But I know come Friday I'll be enjoying the event as well, I'm sure.
And you said there Friday, we're hoping to release this on Friday, aren't we? So if people listen to this nice and early, please go over to Ryan's Instagram and either wish him well or see how he's got on. I know you've got a good squad out there supporting you, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a nice team coming over. So again, really grateful to them for coming. There'll be a few snaps getting taken on the day as well, which will be good. I'll be hoping to release those. But if you listen to this early Friday morning, there'll be a lot of nerves in me right now.
I mean, this is why he now sounds quite sprightly rather than doing this like. We'll try and get a little voice note from you, mate, on Friday morning on your socials and see how you're feeling.
Yeah, it'll be squeaky bum time, shall we say. I'm definitely going to mention it once and once only because I've spoken about it way too much, but I've had a few little issues and niggles cropping recently, but I'm hoping to navigate that pretty well this weekend and actually just make it round. I think it's my main goal. I've got a time in mind, but I'm coming in maybe at like 70% if I'm being honest with you of how I want to be. So as long as I make it round, it's my first one as well. Exactly. I'm not going to break any records. Hunter McIntyre has the current world record at 55 minutes. I'm not going to be challenging him, that's for sure. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to it, mate. I really am.
There's time for you to go hunting for Hunter, isn't there?
Hunting for Hunter.
There's time for that. There's time for that. But no, I suppose one of my key questions for you, mate, were what made you do it? I know you said about like the injuries have subsided like in the knee and you feel like you can actually run again. Was that the catalyst for you, or was it something maybe a bit deeper?
No, that was definitely the catalyst for sure, because I'd always seen like fitness races and done them in the past, like maybe I think it's about 7-8 years ago now since I did that Tough Mudder with the R5 crew. And my knees weren't amazing then. I used to finish the races and be in bits for like a week, month afterwards. And I remember a particularly bad event that I did. Maybe it was a Tough Mudder where, but I was stupid back then. I'd used to not run for like 6 months and then go and run like 11 miles. I'd literally go and run like a half marathon at the drop of a hat. And my hips and my knees had paid the price for it. So I didn't really recover very well and didn't do enough in between. Probably damaged my body quite a lot. Didn't run for a few years. When I tried to pick running back up, my knees were just constantly sore. I think it was from all the kind of impact and doing nothing for ages and then doing ridiculous amounts. And then I really got to the point where I was like, I just genuinely can't run. This year took it up in February, and yeah, it's been pretty good ever since. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you what's changed. I think I've definitely invested more in like really good running shoes. I've seen some great chiropractors, physiotherapists, sports massage people. I've got some brilliant advice and somehow managed to make it work. I think my tapering up process has been a lot kind of easier and more gentle as well. And then once I can start running, I'm like, right, well, what other doors open? I can now do like these fitness events because I can do all the exercises. I've been doing them for years. I've been doing walking lunges and squats and overhead presses and burpees. I've been doing those in my own sessions. They've been fine. It's the running that I couldn't do. And so when I realised I could run, I was like, oh shit, I can give these things a go. And I was actually super excited to be like, okay, let's just see how I get on in these kind of fitness style races now. I've always had, I think, like a relatively decent cardiovascular system to fall back on. So that's kind of, just been something I've really enjoyed pushing this year.
I think that's something that hopefully the listeners can listen to now as well, in terms of it probably took that one catalyst for you. So that one obstacle where you thought, oh, what other doors open now? It always reminds me of Takeshi's Castle. I don't know if anyone's seen Takeshi's Castle, but when they like run through a door and they're like, you ran into so many brick walls until eventually.
What a show, by the way.
Oh, amazing! Until eventually you burst through one door and you were like, right, what's next? And you're like, wall balls. There, let me try them. And then, right, sled pushers. Let me try them. And all of a sudden you've completed the full course, and then you can put it all together in a big package, nicely packaged Hyrox.
Takeshi's Castle, I guess, is its own fitness race to a certain degree, but you can get brutally taken out, potentially concussed by some of the obstacles in that one. But no, I think it's something that's also inspired other clients I've found along the way. We've obviously had Dan Smith on the podcast recently. He's had a phenomenal transformation. He pretty much did exactly what I did. Like, he was in horrendous shape, physically and mentally. I won't go into too many details, but he pulled himself out of that situation, realised he was a lot fitter, a lot stronger, could now potentially think about starting the idea of doing some of these races. And he did like a 10k, he did a 5k, did a 10k. He was like, okay, how much further can I take it? Noticed that I was doing these Hyrox things. What are those? Can I give them a go? And then before I know it, he's signed up to one with me, and he's going to do it with me this weekend, which is awesome to kind of see him go through the full process.
Amazing.
And I think it leads probably quite nicely into maybe who we think this should be an option for, like people who maybe should consider some kind of fitness race, because like I said, I can't sing the praises of it. I mean, I've not even done it yet. Like, let's just hands up in the air. I mean, I feel like I'm giving it the big shebang, but I genuinely have not even done a Hyrox yet. I've done some, like I said, OCR racing, but I've not even done a Hyrox yet. But I know what it's brought to me in terms of my own motivation and goals, and the excitement and vigour in my own training has been phenomenal this year. So, who do you think it will be good for, would you say, a fitness event?
I mean, there's three types of people, in my opinion. You've got the people who know about it. You've got the people who have no idea about it and hopefully will just tick that box now. And the people who are dead against it. I think right now I'd probably like to talk to the people who are maybe dead against it, and for what reasons. I think one thing that we probably wanted to discuss was, one, it's really difficult. One to do and one to get on as well. So maybe someone who is a bit resistant to it, what would be your, not a sales pitch as such, but like, what would be your message to them to sort of say, listen, if you are dead against this, and maybe all you've ever done is maybe train for aesthetics, or you want a little change in your type of training, is why maybe I think you should consider this type of fitness race.
I think it all starts with why they're against it. So, I mean, hypothetically speaking, like, the people that I can imagine are probably more against it are those, as you said, are probably maybe more into like the bodybuilding style training more for aesthetics, which, again, I'm all for. Like, I've done that most of my life, but I got to a period with my physique where I was like, I feel like I've got to a point where I've maybe maxed out with like muscle mass and how far I can take it from a visual point of view. Like, what's it now capable of? Like, what can I do from a performance point of view? And that was exciting for me, and I think it's something that should excite a lot of the people. Like, not just how you look, but how do you perform. Those are much more tangible metrics, and metrics that you can continue improving over time. Whereas, yes, if you're not 100% where you want to look, a Hyrox event or some kind of fitness race is only going to aid your training. It's going to make it more diverse.
Yeah, and I think exactly what you said there, maybe someone who is seeking that diversity. If all you've ever done is train one way, whether that's powerlifting, strongman, could be anything. You could just been like Zumba. All of a sudden, if you want to transition into something that's, it's got a good energy about it, it's really well-rounded. It's not excessively running, it's not excessively doing wall balls, it's not excessively doing ski erg. It's in my opinion, it's a nice sprinkling of each. Yeah. And it's accessible as well. Like, one thing that we toyed around with in my younger days was maybe doing something like a CrossFit competition, but the level of Olympic lifting required, in my opinion, it was a bit of a turn off for me. So when I saw Hyrox was a thing, I'm like, right, I could see that type of group who were on the fence maybe when I was like 10 years ago, when I was on the fence, sort of flirting around with, could I dive into CrossFit and try and compete and go down that route? To see this where there's no Olympic lifting, it's very accessible, it's very scalable, it's tough, but Hyrox is something that, you don't need much kit. You know, and I really like that, and I like the fact that it's benchmarked really well. You've not got to, like running, for example, if you do a certain marathon or a 10K, the routes will differ, as you know. You'll get like different 10K routes. Some routes are classed as PB routes and that sort of stuff. Whereas a Hyrox, you can go to anywhere else in the world or any like sports venue in the world and do a Hyrox, and it's the same. And I just think that is such an amazing thing for people to do.
It's, again, tangible progress over time. You can see every time you go back to it after maybe 6 months, a year, are you improving? Are your times getting better? It gives you your splits across each thing, so it tells you what your runs were like, how you got on time-wise in each individual exercise.
Yeah.
But I think that coming back to those that are maybe a bit sceptical, again, I think it's probably like maybe if you're not into like the fitness style stuff and you're not really used to pushing your heart rate, but you like the gym exercises, I can see again why it would be something that clashes with your goals. And look, to be fair, cardiovascular stuff isn't for everyone. I totally get that. It wasn't something I pushed for many, many years. Just coming back to CrossFit as well, I really think CrossFit dropped a ball with this stuff because it's so closely related to Hyrox in that some of the CrossFit WODs you do include all the things that are in Hyrox, like, walking lunges, wall balls. These are almost like CrossFit. I mean, wall balls especially were more of a CrossFit kind of orientated exercise. I think that's where it kind of maybe originated from. I don't know, but I associated wall balls primarily with CrossFit. There's a lot of running in there. There's rowing, there's ski erg. I think CrossFit dropped a ball because they were just maybe too married to the idea of Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
And CrossFit, fair play to it. I've not got too many things bad to say about CrossFit as long as you're doing it in the right way. I think it is quite technical, whereas Hyrox is less technical. You get people turning up who've never, ever prepped for any kind of fitness race, who can do most of the things there. As long as you can run and you've done a few of the exercises in the past, you're pretty much good to go for some kind of Hyrox race. There's other fitness races that are a bit more demanding, like the original OCR races, Tough Mudder, things like that. There's actually more running in those, so you're probably talking more like, sometimes up to like 10, 11, 12K. But the obstacles in between are much more power explosive based. Like there's ones where you've got like a huge ramp that you've got to run up and it's quite muddy. You've got like some boards you have to climb up over. Maybe, shall we say, more functional in their approach. Tough Mudder is also known for this obstacle called the Arctic Enema. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
So I'd heard about it, knew what it was before I did Tough Mudder, and then when you see it and you sit above it, you're like, oh shit, this is happening. So Arctic Enema, basically the way I kind of would describe it as to when I first saw it was, there's like a huge truck in the middle of this field, and you've come in through this gate, you've ran over to it, and you're like, what's this truck doing? You can see people queuing up behind it, and then you can see people going, whoa, 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 making all these funny noises. And what's happening is basically there is a little bit of a stairway up the kind of front of the cabin of the truck, and then the truck itself is lined and it's filled with water, and on top of the water you can just see like hundreds and hundreds of ice cubes. So immediately this is going to be something pretty cold. And then once you get on top of the truck, you then have a slide that slides you down into the water. You then have like little obstacles that you have to duck under, so you have to actually put your head under to get to the end of it. And it's phenomenally cold, and when when you're doing these things in like October, November, it ain't pretty. But I guess it's like any ice bath. Once you've been shocked with that coldness, your body does heat up. But I mean, you wouldn't get that on a Hyrox event. It's just too wild and out there. And
for now. For now.
Yeah, maybe. Wait till Hyrox 2.0 comes out. But yeah, I love Tough Mudder for that aspect. It was really cool. It was different. It was fun as well. Like that's you challenging yourself doing something that you wouldn't normally do. There's also what's that one at the end of Hyrox? At the end of Tough Mudder. Sorry, wait. It's basically a series of electric shocks. So you've got these little gauntlet, almost, shall we say, and these little wires coming down, and at the end of each one is an electric shock. And if you get shocked, it just zaps you. And I've never really been like zapped in my whole life by any kind of thing electric until I went through that Tough Mudder gauntlet. I'm trying to remember the name of it now, but it's something shockwave or something like that. And you go through it, and then when the first time one got me, it was like, what's the best way to describe it? Like someone like kicked me really hard in the hamstring, and it just gone dead. And I remember just dropping to the floor and being like, why am I now on the floor? I couldn't work it out. I was like, what's going on? And I got back up and one zapped me on my shoulder and my whole left arm went dead. And I was like, this is just the most surreal thing. And
wow.
but those OCR races, they were pretty wild back in the day. I think they've kind of made them a bit tamer kind of for a broader audience. But I think they originated from people just being like, right, let's just set up a wild, mad, random course in a field somewhere in a forest. Let's see how fast people can get around. And then people are like, oh, this is really fun, it's really cool. And one thing that I did notice more and more as I went to some of the Tough Mudders was people of all shapes, sizes, ages do these races. It's not just like you elites. And I genuinely thought that when I first did the first Hyrox, when I first did the Tough Mudder many years ago, I get on the start line and everyone would be like competitive athletes, having done loads of them. Oh, you get there and loads of people doing it for the first time. I remember one bloke, he must have been about 24, 25 stone. He was huge, this guy. And he was like, I just want to get round. And he had a big smile on his face, couldn't wait to take it on. And I love that element of it though. And again, I've never done a Hyrox before. This week's my first one. But from all the kind of YouTube videos, and I've watched way too many Hyrox YouTube videos, by the way, proper geeked out on it. Every single person who's done multiple Hyrox has always said, you'll go there thinking you are the most out of shape, the most unfit. You'll go there thinking you're the oldest. And now someone has to be all three of those.
Yeah.
So there might be the same person, who knows. But along the way, there'll be moments where you realise, oh no, like, everyone's just doing it because they want to give it a go. People are doing it with the tops off and they've not got six packs. They've got some, body fat on them, and that's okay. Those people actually end up, believe it or not, also doing really well. So it's not about how you look. I think it all comes down to these events and giving it your best go and performing it as good as you can. And I like that kind of community aspect of it. It's like encouragement as well. And some people have told me you definitely see it with loads on the Tough Mudder circuits, because some of the events you have to have someone to help you out to get over them. You can't just scale these things yourself. So it is that community vibe of like, right, someone's struggling, let's get her up. And we would spend sometimes 10 minutes at an obstacle on Tough Mudder just getting some people over, because we would like, we'd be one of some of the bigger blokes, me and another guy, and we'd be like, right, let's get like 5 or 6 people over and then we'll get over ourselves. Doesn't kind of work the same way in the Hyrox, but there's definitely an element from what I've seen of like support and community, and the marshals are there cheering you on. They want to make sure you're doing it right, but they also are in your corner saying, come on, you can do it. And that community aspect of fitness racing, I think, is something that everyone needs to kind of experience. I really do. If you like community fitness, then these kind of things will be a big draw for you.
You mentioned about the community side of things, and we've spoken about like the accessibility of getting onto these things, and just they're so busy and the demand's so high. Obviously, I know some gyms have affiliates with Hyrox in particular, so obviously I don't know if they get preference of tickets or whatever, but if there's someone who maybe wants to start and think, right, I'm going to inquire about a Hyrox, how could they inquire? What would you recommend for them to do?
So you go into the website, basically. That's all we did.
Yeah.
So me and Dan decided that we wanted to kind of give it a good go, and they are really difficult to get on, especially in the UK. I'd say abroad they're a little bit easier. Most of the ones abroad, you can kind of go on and kind of get a ticket relatively easily, I want to say.
Yeah.
The few times I've checked the abroad tickets, they've been available. The UK-based ones, you normally have to get onto a ballot. So what you'll do is you'll go onto the Hyrox website, you'll choose one in the UK. I think they do in Glasgow, Birmingham, London, Manchester. I'm not sure if they do a Liverpool one. I don't think there's a Liverpool one, but I'm sure at some point there will be. And then you enter into a ballot, you put your email down, and they'll send you out an email to say, like, thank you for entering. We'll send you an email when the ballot opens, and then when the ballot opens, you basically you wait in a queue. You tell them which event you want to do, whether it's singles, because you can do it by yourself. You can do it as a doubles, so you can do it a same-sex doubles or a mixed doubles, so you can do it with someone. If I was to do it with Dan, for example, it'd be a male's doubles. I could do it with a female, and we'd do a mixed doubles. You can do it for charity as well, which I'm doing, and I'll probably mention more on that pretty soon. And yeah, you basically put your name down and they'll send you an email to say this is whether you'd be successful or not. It's a bit of a long-winded process, and it's not as easy as it should be, really. But I also think as well that plays into the Hyrox popularity, the exclusivity, how difficult it is to get onto. People want to do it more because it's hard. If you can get a ticket, it's like, oof, it's good, I'm sure they're very much aware of that. Don't get me wrong, they could probably do a Hyrox event every single weekend in the UK, and they do pretty well. But eventually, everyone would do one, and there's nothing really to work towards. If you're on every weekend, you can just go, I'll just do one in 2 weeks' time, or I'll just do one next month.
True.
Keeping it exclusive, I think, plays in their favour for sure.
You mentioned about people want to do it because it's hard, and I almost wanted to tap into that mindset for you a little bit. Why is it important for you to do hard stuff and for your clients to do hard stuff? Why is that such a big pull?
Well, that's a really good question, actually. I think it's just within you, or it's not. I think it can be trained. I think some people avoid hard stuff. We know that. When you work with certain people, you realise that they've not really had that physical, strenuous activity their whole life. They've not been in sports teams. But there's a certain sense of purpose there with exercise. And when you push yourself to the absolute extreme, you learn a lot about yourself. I do anyway. When things are really, really tough and my back's up against the wall and I'm on these horrible, long sessions that are pushing me to the absolute limit, you enter realms of your mind that you just don't access in day-to-day life. And that's one thing I love about, especially two things. I love it about the fitness racing stuff, but I'm going to also bring a lot of attention to running. I know you've done some decent runs in the past, and when your cardiovascular system is telling you we're maxed out, but your head's saying we're going to keep going, that is a beautiful battle right there, isn't it? An internal battle that, and who's going to win? Is your cardiovascular system going to win and say, no, we're going to stop, give it a bit of rest? Or is your head going to win and say, no, we're just going to keep pushing now? And I love that sense of that battle that goes on, that internal battle. I've really come to appreciate that this year.
It's nice to see you light up when you talk about it, because you can see it means a lot to you, actually pushing your limits and figuring out what you're made of. And you probably found it makes the rest of your life probably a bit easier as well. If you're willing to push yourself and work hard, if you've done these horrible sessions and then you've got to go and, I don't know, do a car journey or whatever, it's not that bad, is it? No. It's all right, look what else I've done, look at what else I've chosen to do by choice. I've got a rule, which is if any of my clients sort of say, I can't do that, it's too hard, I almost want to encourage them to do it more. And I'm like, well, you'd really benefit from doing this, actually, because your limitations in your head right now, and the only way to get over those limitations in your head is to probably start building up some evidence of you are capable of doing hard things, and you are capable of doing things because you choose to do them. And I think Hyrox is such a safe testing ground to do it, because it's a big event, but the training, and like you said, you've not done it yet, but the journey I've found you sort of go through, and seeing how hard you've worked through it, it's been really admirable just to sort of see. I know the hours that you've put in, I know the frustrations that you've had, but yeah, is there anything you do maybe differently when it comes to the build up? Anything you would have done differently?
No, I think that I've definitely given it 100%. I couldn't have given it any more, and that for me was always I think it's for anyone. You never want to go into something and come out of it feeling like I left that little stone unturned there. I didn't quite do that as much as I should have. I think my biggest downfall is just pushing too hard. I took on too much this year, really. Let's be honest. I haven't run for 7-8 years, and then I'm all of a sudden doing 37k runs in the peaks. Do you know what I mean? Trail runs and rolling my ankle and doing all sorts. And that was all amongst this Hyrox prep. I just did too much. I got a bit giddy, and maybe I paid the price for it a little bit with my hip. But I wouldn't change anything. I like pushing those boundaries, and I think something you mentioned really importantly there is allowing that door to be opened to clients as well, and letting them experience what it's like to really be pushed and to have that sense of achievement. And something they probably a lot of people, they get to their mid-20s, mid-30s, sometimes their mid-40s, and they've never had that sense of achievement from something physical. And I think that's so sad. I really do. They've never had that sense of my body's capable of doing stuff. And then when you unlock that door for them, oh God, the sense of like satisfaction they get from having exposure to that, and the satisfaction you get from being like just watching them take the reins and run away with it. Which is why, like I said, just coming back to Dan, watching him from where he was, he had he'd played some decent sport in the past. He just got very, out of shape essentially, and definitely given up on the idea of ever being able to do anything like he's doing this weekend. So to watch him run away with it and to get to where he is, and actually now be in a point where he's going to challenge for a relatively decent time on the Hyrox circuit, just fills me with so much like pride, admiration, and there's that really nice moment when clients become competition. Yeah, almost.
Well said.
And I love that aspect of someone's journey where they actually inspire me. That is so cool when a client's working so hard, and every single week their commitment to the cause is so unwavering that I actually look internally a little bit and go, am I working hard enough? Because that's bloody impressive what they're doing.
Yeah.
How do I match that? Am I matching what they're doing? And sometimes the answer is no. Honestly, hands up. Sometimes I go, no, you know what? I'm not pushing myself. This person's on such a good wave right now. I need to kind of take their motivation, and again, they inspire me.
You've just explained basically how I feel with one of my clients, Jake. Jake's wicked. I sort of took him on maybe 2.5 years ago. Completely transformed as a person. Like, his mentality's changed, physically he's changed. And when somebody asks me now, like, oh, what are you training for at the minute? I'm like, I'm literally training to keep up with Jake. Because he's taking on...
Has he got an event coming up or something?
He's got Sheffield Half next year.
Yeah.
And I'm actually nervous that he's going to beat my PB. I'm really nervous. Because I'm like, I'll be really proud of him when he does. And I'm going to say when, because he will. But he is. He's a machine. And he's got, his head's in it. He's so much better at some things than I am. Which I hope he doesn't hear this, but there's certain things that he is.
I'm going to send it to him.
Yeah, maybe he is like, there's certain things, and it's quite a nice place to be. Like you said, clients become competition, and clients become inspiration. So it's nice for them tables to be turned a little bit, to be like, I've made a bit of a monster here, and it's nice that we've got these fitness events that can almost bring that out in people and give them as like a testing ground for him to. Essentially test himself and give himself, like after Friday, I guarantee you're going to post-mortem it. You're going to be like, what could I have done better? Did I enjoy it? How did I break it down? And that'll be such a big milestone for you, because no one will take that away from you.
Hopefully it'll be a good post-mortem and not me getting stretched off.
I mean, yeah, post-mortem's probably the wrong choice of words.
Touch wood. But I think that, forget the client-coach relationship, that's what kind of obviously we're entrenched in with our jobs, but let's say you do it with a mate, right? And you go in it together, you both signed up. Sometimes you might do it together and train together, and that's a real nice bonding experience. You get to work together on completing something that's actually really difficult. But the flip side to that is you might also make it into a bit of a competitive thing. Like, if you're doing singles, like me and Dan are, I actually said to Dan, I said, look, I'm your coach, and I have my own coach for this. So we're both being coached by someone. My goal is for you to beat me, because if you beat me, it shows that I can coach people for this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that was always my goal. But like, how hard can I push Dan? And I think I've pushed him harder than. I hope Mick's not watching this. I think Mick's pushed me phenomenally hard. There's no doubt about that, 100%. I can't sing Mick's praises enough. That the programming he's done for me has been perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. But I know that I've pushed Dan harder, and I've done that for a reason. Number one, I think he needed more work doing, and number two, I really want him to do well. I want him to beat me in a weird way. I actually do. Yeah. 'Cause I think if he beats me, I know that when we do our next one, that competitive element, that competitive edge will be there. It'll still be there. And it's been great training with Dan as well alongside him. We've always had some good sessions together. Nice. And then the bonding experience, he's pushed me, I've pushed him. And when you've got someone you're in it with, it's great. And so if you're going to sign up to some of these things, these fitness races, do it with someone that can push you, get them involved. Now, I'm not saying, go around your whole family and friends and start pitching the idea of fitness racing, because a lot of people will show you where to shove it, I'll be honest. But if you find someone that really responds well to this, it's very rewarding, and it'll help you along the way in terms of your prep, and it'll push you.
Speaking of prep, you mentioned something there about Mick saying, you know, it was perfect for me, and like you said about the knee issues, I guarantee he's all factored that in. So
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, that's been amazing. Like
100%.
Mick's managed to just change the sessions and adapt it to my needs based on injuries and how I've been feeling, and just the way he built it up like that. I've honestly learned so much about how to gently build up to these events over the space of 6 months, thanks to Mick. And I'll be honest, a lot of the programming that I've done for Dan has all been really off the back of Mick's suggestions and his programming. I've just tweaked things along the way to, you know, make it a bit more sadistic, basically.
Sure, appreciate that, Dan.
Yeah, I think I've told Dan that. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
He'll soon find out.
He knows now. Which, if there's someone who's listening who's maybe on the fence and they think, do you know what, maybe fitness racing is not for me, I do think we've made quite a good case there about why many people would benefit from it. But if there is someone still, mate, who's, you know, is there anything you can say just to tip them over the edge and say, listen, you'll not regret it, like how much you've enjoyed the process. But if there is someone who's listening thinking, I'm still not sure, it feels a bit cultish, I don't know what to do now, like, what would you say?
I never want to push people into doing things. Like if you tried to say to me 2-3 years ago, go and do this, I probably would have told you to F off as well, to honest. I wouldn't have been interested. And if you're genuinely not interested, fair enough, there's so much other shit you can do. But what got me really into this, I'll tell you right now, it was going to the events. That was a big thing. So my missus ran Manchester half, and then she ran Manchester Marathon, and I went on the start line and I sat on the start line. So the start line and the finish line are the same thing. So I watched people go off, went had some food, came back, and when I was watching people come back for the half and for the full, I was so inspired by, again, the different body shapes and ages, and people carrying, like, you know, Birkins for like 10-20 kilos, and they've done that. I'm like, how has he done that? I mean, at this point I could barely do a 3 to 5k, let alone a marathon with stuff on me. So I was really inspired by that, and I loved being immersed in that. And now if you're sceptical about any of the fitness racing stuff, or maybe you're on the fence about it, you're thinking about it, it costs £15 for a spectator ticket. Go and watch it. Like, go down and watch an event. There's no way in hell, if you are on the fence and you kind of half in, half out, there's no way you'll go to one of those events, see it, and come out there and go, oh, it's not for me. You'll be 100% convinced. It's the atmosphere. It's just it's understanding that people of all shapes and sizes do it as well, and all levels of fitness and abilities. And I think that we do just convince ourselves that, oh, the only people that do marathons are, like, you know, the people that are super fit, the ones I see on the Olympics, they're the marathon runners. Oh no, like, you're getting people who are just phenomenally motivated, and their energy will inspire you as well. And I always remember leaving those marathons and coming home and thinking, God, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, it was phenomenally inspiring.
That's one thing you can't put a price on, like the energy, the pull. Like, for example, like the last 10k race that I did, it was the energy, it was the crowd. Like, they speed you up, and there's little kids on the side of the road with like cardboard stars saying "press me to power up," and I'm like, this is mint. Like, this is so good. And like, if you've got people shouting at you saying like, come on, like, they can see you struggling but they're behind you, I think it's really inspiring. And like you said, most people go into their 30s and 40s having never experienced that sort of encouragement and that feeling of like people want you to do well. So it sounds like a good testing ground to me. Yeah,
like I said, you know, and I'm really not here to like sell it to everyone, because like I said, it's not going to be for everyone. But my own personal experience, just in prepping for one, has been really good. And you know, we probably will do it at some point. Oh, I'm getting massive cramp on my hamstring there. Yeah, that's not a good sign. 2 days out, is it? No. I need to stretch. There's more fluids on board here. Yeah, hamstring pinging like a bad boy there.
No.
So yeah, I think we'll probably do a bit of a debrief post Hyrox, and I'll give you my ideas on how it went, what it was like, maybe like a what to expect podcast if you are thinking about giving it a go, or you've got one coming up. I know there's another one in Manchester. I know this because I'm actually signed up to it, so I've got another one already booked in. Nice. And that's actually going to be for charity, so I'll probably be putting some links out online. If you guys would be amazingly grateful to sponsor me, that'd be awesome. I think it's about £400 I've got to raise, so yeah, I think it'd be you actually get a little Macmillan top as well, which I might wear.
Amazing.
I might go shirtless.
Just tuck it in, mate. Tuck it in the back. As long as people can see it's Macmillan. Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. Ed Banter. Get it in there.
So yeah, we might maybe look at a little bit of debrief after Wednesday and see how it's been. But yeah, I'm excited for it. Sure.
Hyrox debrief. Look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But amazing. And one thing I'd kick myself if I left this podcast and didn't ask you, but mentally, how have you found that transition from you being that guy training from aesthetics to training for performance? Has that been quite a nice, welcome mental change for you?
Yeah, I was nervous initially because I did think that as soon as I started training for performance, I'd lose all my strength, I'd lose all my size. I'd say that I don't think I have to a certain degree. I think as I've dieted more, maybe in the last 6 weeks or so, some of that's naturally come down a little bit, but I've wanted to lose weight. I went from 96 to 90 kilos this morning, and that's going to be a welcome addition when I'm running 8k around those tracks. But there's no way to describe how much more excitement it's given me in my training. I've mentioned that before, and I do think that if you've been a bit stagnant with your training, you've done the same style of thing for a while now, whether it is the powerlifting stuff or the bodybuilding, or maybe you've just been even just stuck as a runner for quite a while and you're getting a little bit bored of continually doing the same races all the time, this is just something a little bit different. It adds another element to it, mixes your training up slightly. Those things are priceless when it comes to motivation and goal setting. So yeah.
There's options out there for people, which is amazing.
There's always options, and I think fitness racing is something everyone should consider if they feel like they can at least do something like a 5k. If you can do a 5k, this is in your realm of possibility. Amazing, mate. Thank you for sharing your insights, and best of luck on Friday. I'm pretty sure you'll smash it. And thank you very much. I'll need all the luck I can get, mate.
You'll be fine. But yeah, like I say, if you are listening to this on Friday, please go over to Ryan's Instagram at r5.online, is it?
That's it.
And just send him well wishes. See how he's getting on, and best of luck, man.
Appreciate that.
Right, should we sign off there?
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for joining us on the Fitness Podcast. We will see you on the next one.
See you soon.